Hi, this is Greig, and I'm talking this week about respecting God and His holy ways. Respecting God and His holy ways. This is my really quick introduction to the theme for Sunday, March the 7th, from the set readings which many churches follow. There's a pretty comprehensive Bible study with questions and reflections on the living word for March the 7th, which teaches what it's all about. Now, the Bible pretty much explains the Bible, and there are plenty of cross-references with convenient links where the heavy lifting has been done for you. But what are we to make of the message that comes from the teaching, the message which is for us to apply? Well, our story this week starts with the 10 Commandments in Exodus 20. This part of the book of Exodus has long been regarded as the kind of bedrock of good Christian civilized behavior. The 10 words, which is what it is literally, 10 words from God, were intended to keep those rather independent, fractious tribesmen, keep them having one focus on God who provided for them, and an equal focus on the rights and needs of each other. So to honour God and keep covenant with Him meant paying attention to both of these relationships. But principles and relationships are abstract things, and it's difficult for us to work out whether we're getting it right or not. So the temptation is always to reduce them to a kind of code or formula. And by Jesus' time, the Pharisee group in particular has made quite a meal out of that, with more than 600 provisions to cover every eventuality. They turned it into a religion, and they'd lost sight of it being about relationship with God. So the next episode in this week's story is the scene at the temple during one of the busiest weeks, it's a good week for trade, at Passover time. Jesus finds the court of the Gentiles, that's the outer area that anyone could enter and join in the worship, jammed with stands and stalls. The animal sellers had their white doves and unblemished lambs, and people coming in from the provinces could change their foreign money for the special temple silver that could be used for offerings. Jesus shoos them all out. He told the people who sold the doves, and this is from the Bible, "Get these things out of here. Stop turning my Father's house into a marketplace." That's John 2 and verse 16. The disciples remembered a prophecy about the Messiah being consumed by a passion for God's house. This was a place where, well, according to man's values, there's plenty of money coming in, plenty to be made for the temple, and not just the traders. And the more the general spirituality faltered and faded, the more money they needed. And it's exactly the same with us and our churches. According to God's values, this was a holy place, and a place where the people of the light, that's the Jews, could be a light to the Gentiles, showing others where the presence of the true and living God could be found. But not if it was full of traders. Well, Paul continues our story and gives us a different angle to this same problem of worldliness. Corinth, which was the busy and successful city he was addressing, was also full of opinionated people. They had their own versions of QAnon and conspiracy theories, and a contemporary writer, Aristides, said Corinth had a philosopher standing on every street corner. They were proud of their logic and their rhetoric, and they didn't think much of the Christian belief. A holy and powerful Saviour, the Son of God, who had the foul type of execution reserved for the lowest dregs of society. How can we believe in someone like that? And Paul, without agreeing, meets them where they are. The proclamation of forgiveness, salvation, a new life through Christ crucified looks at first sight like foolishness. But this message, he said, contains the spiritual power you need to be saved. From the Bible again. The message of the cross is foolishness to those who are perishing, but to us who are being saved, it is the power of God. People in Corinth found their satisfaction in logic and looked for what was rational, which a crucified Saviour never will be. From the Bible again. God in his wisdom saw that the world would never know him through human wisdom. He has used our foolish preaching to save those who believe. It is foolish to the Jews who ask for signs for heaven, and it is foolish to the Greeks who seek human wisdom. Paul wasn't going to be sidetracked into trying to give people what they wanted, and Jesus certainly wasn't going to be sidetracked into being popular with the temple authorities. Moses wasn't a bit sidetracked by the people he had charge of, who at times refused to trust God. They were all keenly aware that their responsibility was to hear what God was saying in the situation, and then to say exactly that along with him. Well, what about us? This is a time when churches have lost a lot of attendance. Some have lost half or more in just 2 or 3 decades. And the rise in online worship is going to be a real hit on attendance and finances until church recovers its primary purpose, to proclaim the message of Jesus Christ crucified and the new life we can find in him, just in him. Spirituality and income go hand in hand, and when the spirituality drops, we looked at that with the temple, so does the income. It sounds simplistic to say this, but the way back is Jesus, because when revival happens, then everything is healed, including the finances. Of course, it seems like foolishness not to give people what they want and to encourage them to come that way, but that's not the way it works in God's economy. In every historic revival, the message that challenges has also been the message that attracts, because truth is attractive, and new life is infectious, and the reality of God's love is an experience like no other. Thank you for listening. Do check this out in more depth on www.thelivingword.uk, and I look forward to being with you the next time.